Good evening and welcome to the 2021 Clarion Collegium Week. Thank you to everyone listening and tuning in tonight from wherever you may be. And I'm so excited to welcome you back to live events of the Clarion Society in summer 2021. We are kicking off a busy week of chamber music and solo master classes with a flute master class led by Sandra Miller. And Anastasia Camaño is going to perform the 8th Fantasia of Georg Philipp Telemann in just a moment. I just wanted to say a word about a special event tomorrow evening, which is on YouTube and Zoom only. Actually, excuse me, Zoom only, no YouTube, which is a panel discussion on the subject of music in prior pandemics with an extraordinary group of musicologists speaking on an array of previous pandemic times throughout history and the music that came out of them. It's going to be an extraordinary thing. I highly recommend that you look into the details on Clarion's Education Week page. Meanwhile, thank you for tuning in. Please enjoy this evening's masterclass, and you are welcome to join us in person or online tomorrow evening and also Friday and Saturday of this week. Thank you for being with us.
I might have to ask you to pass music back and forth to me if I want to play something for you, because I don't have a copy with me. But anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. You play beautifully. You have a very beautiful sound to begin with. And if you were going to go towards Baroque flute, I think it would serve you very well. You would probably be able to pick up a flute and get out a beautiful sound right away. The way you put the air into the instrument, and in this repertoire particularly, which lies so low in the modern flute range, you handle it very well. It's really beautiful. And you also have a very good feeling for this repertoire. You know, I might ultimately make a suggestion to take the second movement a little bit faster, but the way you grasp the phrase structure and what I think I hear you understanding about the harmony, you get it, which is a really wonderful thing. Great way to start with that. The first thing I would want to ask is, what edition are you playing from? Can I see it?
Yeah, sorry, should I put my mask on?
Okay.
This is an edition I found on IMSLP, so
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's a very good, well, and these are,
Some of the markings
your
are-
slurs are there. Okay. This was the scholarly edition from the 1980s, and it was done pretty cleanly from the facsimile, I think, at least what they were able to do at that time. Since then, people have cleaned up the facsimile, which is also on IMSLP, and I would recommend that you look at it and compare every single note, because there are some typographical errors just copying from the facsimile into the modern edition. Since that time, a number of people have made their own, flutists have made their own annotated editions with other corrections and suggestions, but all based on the facsimile. And I just read on one of the flute lists, like yesterday, that there's another new one coming out, you know, with more cleaning up that's been done and more revealing about it. So this is good, but I think you could probably do better if you went back to the facsimile with white out, or, you know, at least a pencil to make any corrections that are there. Let's see. One thing about the Baroque flute is that large intervals don't slur well. So you would want to articulate, you might want to make it sound smooth, but you would have to do that by making the air smooth rather than by just tonguing one note and gliding to the second note. Places to slur are intervals that are smaller than a third. And also when you see pitch patterns like da-da, da-da, stuff like that, you would let the pitch patterns be your guide. But anything that's larger than a third, you should suspect. Telemann played the flute, which is a nice thing. Bach did not play the flute. So, so when I see Telemann, and even when I look at the facts, you know, the original engravings or whatever, I try to do it exactly the way it was. But I still factor in what I know about the instrument from having played it, what works well, what is unnatural to it, and maybe a slur or something like that would be a suggestion for how smooth it should sound, but not necessarily the exact tongue stroke. In the Bach sonatas, the slurs are so inconsistent that I try to think, what did he mean by that, if we have even an autographed manuscript? But sometimes it's a copyist, and then you still have to try to think, is it a good copyist or a bad copyist, you know, who's dealing with the material? So I don't know the best way to do this since we only have one copy. What does largo mean to you?
To me, it means like tempo-wise, like slower tempo, but it also kind of means like sustained in a way, like long, I would say. Like, I don't know, like the phrases maybe are a little long. I don't know if that makes sense.
Do you know the exact translation? Largo, large.
Okay.
So something has to feel like a large beat or, you know,
Okay.
not little bitty beats. I actually didn't remember that this was Largo. I would have guessed that maybe it was Andante. No, but this is the right edition, so it must be Largo. So can you simplify the notes that are there so that you only play a note where there's a chord change? I'm not sure you
Like
understand.
less emphasis on.
I'm going to ask you to leave some notes out.
Okay, sure.
So I'm leaving out sort of the upper second voice. Can you make, for a phrase or two, a simplified version?
Sure.
Keep going.
Um,
Okay, that's great. Do that again and try to find a tempo that makes the chord changes sound appropriate. You're thinking harmonically now more than melodically. I think that sounds great. Can you do it really strictly metrically? Don't play any more notes yet.
okay.
But anything that you leave out, keep the rhythm of the basic structure the same. I think that's perfect. Can you put in all the missing notes now and still make that, what you just played, project?
Okay.
I think that's great. Perfect tempo. Can you now make sure that the note that's on the first beat of each measure and then secondarily the note that's on the third beat of the measure, make them the most expressively articulated notes?
Okay.
I'd rather just ask you to do it and demonstrate for you. So
Sure.
you want what's on 1 and then what's on 3 to get the most expressive articulation.
A
Okay,
little better?
that's the idea, yeah. And I'm also going to play those notes with resonance like I expect them to ring for a half note's worth. You know, there'll be some decay, obviously, but so it's sort of preparing the third beat before you get there, how much resonance you want it to have. Try it again. Your tempo is perfect, so keep doing exactly what you're doing. That was good. That's great, great. Now, I don't know if you're just imitating me, but now you're also playing strong and weak
Oh.
tonguings on the 16th notes, which is excellent. I really don't believe, judging from my reading of the treatises now, you know, we don't have recordings or anything like that, but I think perfectly evenly stressed consonants, articulations, were not attractive to them at all, because the treatises have all these prescriptions for dee-ree, 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 or diddle, 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 so that they're paired consonants with a strong one and a weak one. And, you know, it's the way jazz players play even notes. You know, if you can imagine jazz with equally stressed notes, it wouldn't be nearly as beautifully nonchalant. You know, it just, it would sound tight and stressed, you know. So. Let's just do it on a G. It's almost like, even though the tongue is making two strokes, the air is coming out in puffs that are 2 notes long.
Okay.
Can you try it? Excellent. Now try. Just a G major scale. The first one almost sounds like 2 puffs. And then you get into it right away. It's like I'm playing I'm blowing 2 slurred notes, but I'm touching the second one with my tongue. Try it again. Excellent, and really, really good. Now, can you apply that to this? We can go slower. So that you're going to blow in 8th note pulses, but you're going to touch the notes, the 16ths, with your tongue. Good, that's excellent. Doing it, practicing at home, you can just do a scale like that, twice on one pitch, and then you can morph into. And sometimes if you put that artificial space between the pairs, that would keep you from accidentally lapsing into. You don't want to link them that way. You want to keep them within the beats. So let me look at this again. And would you mind trying this with only the printed slurs once? And as much of that as you can put into it besides would be great. That's great. Your tempo is just perfect. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard, and it just fantasia all over the place kind of thing. But also, I don't believe that this is one of those free-form pieces. These fantasias are full of dance movements, improvisatory kinds of movements, virtuosic, capriccio kinds of movements, but this one's pretty straight. You get cadences, and it's not like there are long stretches with no chord changes, which I think are really licensed to, really bend it all over the place. But this is fine, really, really excellent. I'd like to work a little bit on the feminine endings. You know what feminine cadence is?
It's not perfect, right?
No, this is a rhythmic thing, not a harmonic thing.
I don't know, I'm sorry.
Feminine versus masculine, you're not supposed to say that anymore.
Yeah,
once I was teaching in a school where the students said, we call them X cadences and Y cadences now. But it comes from poetry, phrases that end on a stressed beat, a strong beat, and cadences that end on an unstressed beat, or phrases that end on an unstressed beat. And a lot of it comes from language. They're much more common in French repertoire. And if you think about how the cadence of the French language, a good example, I guess, is Frère Jacques. Frère Jacques. You hear how there are weak syllables, unstressed syllables at the ends of the words. Whereas in Italian, if you sing do, re, mi, the vowel is what it gets sung. So these are more like French repertoire, even though it's Telemann. And there are places at the ends where your last note is not on a stressed beat. This is a masculine ending because it cadences on one. But this, the third beat of the bar is important, and then you get a little bit of riff afterwards. And then also places like this. So you have to believe the meter. You want to stress the note that's on the strong beat of the measure, and you want the rest of them to be in the decay that would just come from that syllable, frère, or whatever, And another word I like to use is fête. We just say fête, but if it's in French poetry, they pronounce, did you study French ever?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So if you were doing it in poetry, it would be fête, with that unstressed syllable at the end. So. See, the cadence is really on the D, and the other notes are just a little bit of decoration of the cadence. Can you try that?
Yeah.
Okay, can you do it one more time, and I want you to march on the quarter notes.
Sure.
Well, you did it better, but don't march on the eighths. March on the quarters.
Quarter only?
It's harder to balance. I know what I'm asking. I'm sorry. But
No, sorry, I didn't know.
yeah.
Okay.
You see how perfectly
Yeah, that was
inflected your last three notes were.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can we try that on the other place? Maybe play from there, and you're going to do the same thing with the decay there, and you're going to march on the quarter notes.
Okay.
That was great. Do it one more time.
Sure.
Perfect, 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 perfect. So believe the meter. Meter is really a tool to help you be expressive. And if you think about the way we speak, there are more unstressed syllables than stressed syllables. you know, nobody knows the Coneheads from Saturday Night Live anymore, but we do not speak like this, and we would not want to play music like that either. So the beauty,
Yeah,
I think
I fall into that sometimes. Sorry.
it's the unstressed syllables that make things beautiful. Before we leave this movement, I just want to play for you what a chromatic scale sounds like on the other flute.
Oh, sure.
Because it's very bumpy. You can't play it as smoothly as you would on a modern flute. So I'll just tell you a little bit about this before I do it. The natural key of the flute is D major. You play a D flute also, but the keys have been added, so what comes out is a C major scale. But it's those extra F keys that keep you from playing F sharp. So, and I'm going to be at A 415, so it's a semitone below modern pitch. So I just take off my fingers one at a time, and out comes a D major scale, but it sounds like D flat major to modern ears. So any notes that don't belong to that scale are fingered with what we call forked fingerings. So the air escapes from one hole, but then you stop a hole farther down. That's how I have to play F natural. Now I could play it louder, the F natural, but it would sound horribly out of tune and gross. So most of our repertoire is in sharp keys because they sound better, and then composers knew the instrument well enough that if they decided to throw in an F natural or a C natural or something worse like a G sharp, they knew it would have a color all its own. So E minor is actually a pretty good key for me here. Most of those notes are in the D major scale. But if I play the chromatic scale passage, you can hear the notes don't match in color at all.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
Sure.
And Telemann would have known that. He played the flute. So it's not an accident that he wrote that, but he would have been expecting a different color.
Okay.
If I play just a plain chromatic scale, I can get it pretty well in tune, but I have to make the volume of the bad notes different in order to get them to fit into the scale well. And one other thing that happens on this flute is, not for every note, but for some notes, there are different fingerings for enharmonic spellings. So I finger A sharp and B flat differently. And they fit in their respective scales better in tune than with equal temperament, like on a piano or on that flute where you can't play any different on A sharp from B flat. So those are just things that this flute can do that are a little more advanced than you might guess. Okay. Do you have any questions about this movement?
I don't think so. Thank you so much.
Sure. I would recommend, I don't think you have to play it with a metronome. You've got the right tempo. You feel the right tempo. But I think it might serve you well to walk in quarter notes, and then you would feel the largeness of the beats, and you wouldn't be tempted to let it lapse into eighth notes or smaller things that might make it sound like a faster movement than it actually is.
Okay.
So that's good. All right, I'll come close and I'll put my mask on. Spirituoso. I think, you know, it has to sound spirited and lively. It doesn't have to sound vivace. It doesn't have to sound allegro, particularly. I think this is the piece that, I should ask you, what is your music theory background?
So I've taken like some theory courses at school. Like I've taken like 4 semesters so far. but I don't know what details you need about my background. Sorry.
You've done intervals and scales and
Yeah.
chords and stuff like that. How about formal analysis?
We have done some analysis, but I haven't, like there's a separate analysis class that I haven't taken yet.
Okay. Probably, though, what you could do in a piece like this, even if you haven't, gone through something like that yet, is take a pencil and mark the lengths of the phrases, because some of them are interrupted, and just if you're aware of that, if some other phrase butts in the middle before you've completed a cycle of one phrase, you would want to show that in your playing. You don't have the benefit of having a harpsichord accompaniment underneath you, so you have to do all the harmonic structure stuff yourself within your own single line part. I also think that the rests are very wonderful in this piece. It's like, what am I supposed to do? Is this where I have to stop and think, like, where do I improvise next? Or, what function they serve. Do they chop off the end of a phrase? Is it like you're supposed to be thinking, where do I go next? How do I get home? How do I get back to my original key? That kind of thing. So I think these things are done well away from the flute. So I would do this at your desk, and just brackets over the top. This phrase is 4 measures long. Here comes another one that's the same thing, but on a different scale degree, something like that. I think even without a formal analysis class, you can do something like that. Can we talk through this one that way?
Sure,
Okay. Why don't you start at the beginning, and when you get to the end of the first group of whatever patterns, stop.
Okay.
Do you mind if I'm standing this close?
No.
Okay.
As long as you don't mind. I think that's the end of that phrase.
Okay. It sort of stops on a leading tone, though. Where would you say it really ends?
I guess the A, right? Maybe it ends there.
Okay.
I don't
Do you know the meaning of the word sequence?
Yeah.
Okay, so right here you get 3 sequences, or 3 patterns on different scale degrees. That's worth marking also, because you want to share that with your listener. Like, oh, I liked it once, I'll do it again on a scale, a higher scale degree, and maybe even another one. So you'd want to bring those out. And, they start here. So, then you have to think about, is that a unit?
Okay. Can I play it again?
Mm-hmm.
So I think these two, like this measures
Okay.
kind of in one area, and then it kind of changes,
Okay.
and then it goes through to the end,
Okay.
to where the sequences start. That's what I think.
Okay, I think that's great. Play it again, and your audience is uneducated, but they're awake and aware, and introduce the piece to them.
With just like make it obvious, right?
Make it obvious. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'll do it again.
And now what happens? Going ahead.
It kind of repeats, like the beginning, kind of.
Right.
But
Okay, so you can blast that out to them. Once wasn't enough. I'm going to do it again. Okay, that was excellent what
That
you
was
did.
better? Okay.
Yeah, and perfect tempo again.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's just now that you're thinking about what units you want to project to them, but it's helping you find exactly the right tempo. It's great. So start in the beginning, and when it starts again there, as if you're holding up a sign. Again, different key, same theme.
Like mezzo forte to forte, kind of.
Something like
However.
that, but just, you can almost pretend like you're talking. I did this once, I did it again, I did it third time, but now is the main theme, sort of like that.
With the emphasis, okay.
You're holding up road signs. Try to keep that image, you know. Good.
I don't know where to start.
Okay, so now something different is happening. We're going to call these little things here, this connective tissue, episodes. And you got through the theme, and now we're going to have yet a different kind of an episode.
Okay.
All right? How about if you start on the second? Same thing. Okay, and here you have another feminine ending, you know. So this is something different, right? We haven't had that yet. But you've gotten to the relative major, so maybe he's setting something up. I'm going to ask you to start right there, and you know that you're going to play the theme again when you get there, but the audience doesn't know that yet. So how can you set up that rest so that they think, oh, something's going to come?
Okay.
It's also how you sort of,
Yeah.
you know, let
I
that,
like stepping it.
yeah. You have to have a way of freezing and getting them to freeze their, oh, we're just going to go along, but da-da-da. When is she going to start again? Duh, you know, you can set that up. Good. I'm sorry, I ruined your freezing.
No, it's fine.
That was great, that was great. Okay, I'm going to ask you to do again. Your rest was too short. It was shorter than your da-da-da, because all I can do is maintain da-da-da, 1, 2, 3, and if you come in before I get to 3, it's like, then I'm really, uh-oh, where, you know, where are we? Okay.
One more time.
I could ask you to march, but I won't. I'll just ask you to think about it.
Okay, I'll think about it.
All right.
I don't know what to
This
do.
is very good, very, very good. And your freezing up there was perfect. It really was. That was really great. You might want to work backwards from this rest. You're going to have another one of these, oh, where do I go next kind of thing. And you have to help them understand that. So if there are patterns and sentences before that, where would they start?
Okay, so, like this is kind of a new idea, this part here, but even before that I thought it kind of changed a little. Maybe it was just the key area that I was hearing. So like I would say here it started to move.
Okay, I agree.
I didn't identify where, but it started to change. And then I think starting like here is where the chord note to 8, that was a new idea. I thought. I know it's not a formal analysis.
No, but that's
just how
exactly what I'm
Yeah,
hoping
okay.
you, it's a narrative. It's like, well, we went here and then I had to decide where the fork in the road was kind of thing. So you could start where on the G major entrance? Good. Okay, and I'm not quite sure how to ask the right leading question, but to me, this is a huge interruption. If you play here, tell me what, just play the note you expect to hear there. No, you're going to play all these notes, and then, you know, I'm blocking out what is actually written there,
Okay,
but you play the note that you expect to hear. And look what you get.
Yeah.
And it's not even a cadence note. It's not a resting point rhythmically. It's something that's just, you've had the rug a little bit pulled out from under you. So start in the same place and be ready to show this to the audience. You know, you want to sort of go, ha ha, you know, I'm not going to give you what you expect. Good.
Sorry.
Now we're going to get more interruptions and more disjunct brackets that you're not going to be able to do just as easily, apparently, as you did at the beginning of the piece. So I think what I'd like to ask you to do is start there. If you want to go a little bit slower, I love your tempo. You know, when you polish this, this is the right tempo. But you can go a little more slowly so that you can like be making up the story in your mind. I'm going to do this, and the note that I expect is this. I mean, you didn't have any trouble doing the note that was expected, so that you yourself will be surprised now as you go through it. Okay?
I'm gonna take it a little slow. I don't know if that's a surprise.
I could see it, but I think you could exaggerate it a little bit more.
I just don't. So, to make that more surprise, like exaggerate the low A.
I think so. I think so.
I'm gonna try it again.
Okay. And you know, sometimes in cadences like this, the low A place, you have to say, is that really a resolution of what I was doing, or can it only function as initiating the new phrase? And sometimes if you don't play it like it's got any leftovers, da 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 da, it only belongs, you know, normally the cadence note belongs with the old phrase, but this one it doesn't, yeah.
And I was kind of playing it like I wasn't sure.
Yeah, okay.
I think. Okay.
Good. And what about right there? What note do you expect? Play here. What's the note you expect? You play the whole measure.
Okay. Sorry. I don't actually know.
You have to play all the notes before you decide what to do. Da 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 da.
Oh,
What?
that's. I thought you meant to guess.
Oh, no,
Sorry.
no, no. The note after this. What note do you expect?
Sorry.
Yes. And do you get it?
Yeah, I got it. Sorry.
No, no, no,
Oh, no,
no.
yeah,
Do
I
you,
understand.
does Telemann give it?
No,
No.
it's interrupted.
Okay, so another opportunity to freak out the listener.
Okay. Should I take it from this spot or
Maybe from here? Good. Feminine ending. Can you make a better nicer feminine ending? Good. And then you have to freeze again. I shouldn't talk so much in your rests, but. Good. Okay, and this last note is a D sharp. That will help you feel the rest a little bit better. Maybe from here, and just heightened alertness to surprises. Okay, good. Can we go from here way under tempo and really pay attention? You know, I expect the piece to end right there.
Okay.
If that were an E instead of a rest, da 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 da, you'd be fine. But you get nothing, you know, instead. So I think because we've gotten back to the right key, this is wrapping it up music. We're not going to go voyaging out, you know, anymore. But the rest is still shocking in a place like that. So maybe you could start from the high E up there. Perfect. Yes, that's exactly the right thing.
Okay.
You can do it slower if you want, because there's surprises all laden in here, from here to the end.
Okay, so I'm going to do it slower, and I'll keep going if it's good.
Okay. Mm-hmm. It's excellent, excellent. I'm just going to ask you to, this is the final let's wrap it up rest. Can you, more than you might ever want to do in a performance, just stop there as if like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do now? How am I going to wrap this up? I'd like to see the wheels turning. Okay? I'm sorry, could you back up a little bit farther than that? Yeah, I know. I want you to set up these rests also. Maybe one more time there.
Sure thing.
Mhm. That was wonderful. You know, and one thing that was really good about it was that this is not the tonic chord. You're not home yet. And you didn't play it like, oh, I'm home, this is the end. It was like you were still searching, almost like that was, oh, I'm going to play some notes up here. I know I'm in the dominant until I land on the tonic. And that came out really well. Can you go from here to the end without such a big retard?
Yeah.
Please.
Sure.
And one more time, so that you need to tell the audience, yes, this is the end.
Should I retard like the last two?
I'd say it just has to be natural. You know, it's like they have to know before you play the last note that, yes, she's really going to end on the last note.
Yeah, that was kind of.
Like that, something like, you just have to show them,
Okay.
yes, folks, I really am going to end right now. Good. Would you be up for playing the whole movement?
Yeah, I think that would be
Okay, all right. So we'll close. If you want to play both movements, that would be okay?
I can do that.
Okay. That was wonderful. That was great. I heard so much of that. I mean, I can't unknow the piece, unhear the piece, so I know what's coming next. But you really did help me understand the structure of it. And you handled the rests beautifully. I thought that was great. Good. Do you have any questions about this piece?
No, I think I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay, and any questions about the Baroque flute or?
None right now. No, I'm good.
Okay, all right. Thank you for playing.
Thank you so
It's
much
really
for
good to
having me.
hear you, and it's always wonderful to hear somebody who just has natural affinity for this repertoire. So that's great. Go and look at the facsimiles on IMSLP and see if there's anything that needs to be changed in that edition.
Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thank you, Clarion.